if I'm being totally honest with you guys, I've been the guy who's been very optimistic about this team with the Ravens, even though they started out 1-5. I was the one that said, "Hey, they'll come back. Season's not over yet. Um, the division is still there to be had. All this stuff. All this positive stuff I've been saying." After what I saw on Sunday, and before I get to that, we all know it was a touchdown by Isaiah Likely. Like, let's be honest, guys. Like, I'm not saying it's just because I'm a Ravens fan or a bitter, angry Ravens fan, because I'm sure if it happened to anyone else's team, they would probably be complaining or feel how I felt when I first saw it, because it was clearly a touchdown, or else I just don't know what an NFL catches anymore. So, and again, had it been with any other team, I would have supported that, because it's just one of the most ridiculous calls I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a reversal of a touchdown that's so clear, really, ever. I can't remember. It's as bad as that pass interference in that playoff game with the guy from the Rams, and in that Rams Saints game, if you remember that. It was a blatant pass interference, and they just flat didn't call it. So that was one of the worst calls I've seen since that. Isaiah Likely has the ball in his hands, and he's extending it, literally extending it as he's taking steps in the end zone, because the guy's trying to rake the ball away from him. You see the two steps, you see the control of the football by extending it. I mean, I don't understand, like, what more do you need? Like, he's in the end zone, so what kind of other move can he really make? But they made the call. It's pretty obvious that it was a wrong call, on top of a couple of questionable calls within the game. But I'm not going to I'm not going to be the one to just blame solely just the calls. Were they bad? Yeah. But how did we get here? The Ravens had a terrible first half. They did not do much of anything to say they deserved to win this game. I mean, when you think about it, just scored 9 points in the first half. They were down 17-9. So you're trying to catch up. You're playing catch up the entire game, and it's like you're asking the refs to basically help you. You're hoping for calls to go your way. When you're ever in a situation where you're hoping for calls to go your way and you need the refs to bail you out, I can promise you 98 to about 99% of the time, it's not going to go your way. You're probably going to get screwed over. And that's kind of what happens in any sport. So if you're in that position where you're hoping for the ref to bail you out, you probably don't want to be in that position. But the Ravens put themselves in that position by how they played specifically in that first half. It wasn't good enough to win the football game. And, based on what I've seen, again, Aaron Rodgers was comfortable the entire game. I didn't see Aaron Rodgers really under much duress the entire game. And when you can't get to a Hall of Fame level quarterback and he gets time to throw, you know what he's going to do. He's going to pick the defense apart, because he's Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks from a talent perspective we've ever seen. So if you give that guy time to throw, it's inevitable. So glaring weakness showed up again with this Ravens defense. There was just no pass rush. There was no real resistance at times. DK Metcalf, give Steelers the credit. I mean, they finally realized that DK Metcalf was on their team, and they probably should throw him the ball a little bit more. And they started doing that in this game. It was pretty successful. So, but again, didn't see much resistance from this Ravens defense. Just again, it doesn't matter how good your cornerback room is or your safeties. If you can't get pressure on the quarterback, especially one that's as good as Aaron Rodgers has been all through his career, it's not going to matter. He's going to pick it apart. Lamar Jackson, I thought, had a better game. 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 passing. Should have been 2 to Isaiah Likely, as we just talked about. But then there was the interception. Trying to make a play out of nothing, playing random Russian roulette football like Lamar Jackson has done through most of his career, and it's worked for a long time. But Russian roulette doesn't always work. So it's bad turnover. You put the defense in a bad position. Trying to make a play that's just not there. I understand what he saw. He tried to flip it over to Ali, but the Steelers defender read what he was trying to do, and it was a pretty easy interception for him. The Ravens defense actually held up pretty decently as I crushed them right now. The Ravens defense actually held up pretty well in the red zone for the most part, outside of that Aaron Rodgers fake handoff run, which no one saw, I'm sure, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't do much running these days, but it was the explosive plays. It was the explosive plays to Metcalf, to Warren, to Gainwell. It was those to Calvin Austin. Those were the plays, the back-breaking plays that put the Steelers in good position. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens win another football game the rest of the season. I think they will not make the playoffs. I think they will finish not winning another game, because look what we have up next. We have at Cincinnati, who just got spanked by on Thanksgiving. Joe Burrow's back. It's not going to be Joe Flacco or Jake Browning. It's going to be Joe Burrow. You follow that up with a home game against the 10-2 Patriots, who is being led by the MVP favorite in Drake May. And then after that, you have to go to Green Bay to play Jordan Love and the Packers, and then finish up at Pittsburgh. If I'm being totally honest, I don't have much confidence that the Ravens are going to win another football game. And as a Ravens fan, that sucks, but I got to be logical here. I got to look at what I've been seeing and what level of confidence I really have in this football team. This is not a very good football team this year. There's too many weaknesses, glaring weaknesses that are impeding this football team from being successful. You can start with the offensive line, right guard and left guard, Voorhees, Daniel Faalele. No quarterback's going to do that well when the interior of the offensive line keeps getting destroyed like it's been getting destroyed. You're constantly under duress. You're constantly having to make plays outside the pocket uncomfortably, on the run, improvising over and over and over again. Like it's rarely that you have a really good pocket. Now, I never played football, so I don't know how many times you really will have a clear pocket. I'm just kind of like, looking at the game and like seeing like, the best quarterbacks, have good protection. Not that they can't make things happen when the protection breaks down, but I'm thinking that the better protection you have, the better the offensive line, the better quarterback play you will have. So, Lamar Jackson's been in and out of practice, injured with the myriad of injuries that we've seen him sustain. And you couple that with what the Ravens have been missing the past couple of years that I, from the beginning, was worried about, was the pass rush. Again, it's nice to have a good secondary led by Kyle Hamilton, the safety, Marlon Humphrey, Awuzie, who I thought has been very, very good this year, Nate Wiggins, really good secondary group. Decent linebacking core with Roquan Smith and Teddy Buchanan. But again, and they actually did a good job stopping the run. They held the Pittsburgh Steelers to, I believe, under 50 yards rushing. We're under 100. And the Ravens ran for over 200 yards. But the thing is, when it was time to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers getting to the quarterback, they could not do it. And that continues to be a glaring weakness. And if you can't do that against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you can't do that to the great quarterbacks in this league, you're going to get picked apart. Look at who the Ravens have lost to this year. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. The list goes on. Joe Burrow. These are all the good to elite quarterbacks in this league, and you were unable to beat them. A lot of it because they were comfortable. They didn't really feel the defense. You were able to get to J.J. McCarthy, to Tua Tagovailoa, to Tyrod Taylor. All the glaring weaknesses that we see with the Ravens, they kind of get masked a little bit based on who you've been playing. When we get to the better teams, this is what we've been seeing. So based on all of that, how can you really have confidence that this team is going to be able to pull it together, even with the greatness of Lamar Jackson? How can you really be able to overcome all these glaring weaknesses on both sides of the ball that are critical in terms of how successful you'll be? I just don't see it. Is it time for me to prove me wrong? Sure. But as I sit here today, being totally honest with you, I don't see it happening. I think the season is over for the Ravens.